The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello friends, thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we will talk about some significant changes coming to Major League Soccer, and we will answer a few more listener questions and cover some other Austin FC news. My name is Landon Cottom, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremiah Bentley, and Landon, this feels like a return to normalcy. We had you in Japan, and then you had these effects of jet lag, and I think last week recorded a couple hours earlier than normal, but this is like, it's Monday night, 8 p.m. Just like I'm feeling like the old, like it's a comfortable old pair of jeans right now that I'm in, recording with you tonight. And hopefully my rear end's not hanging out because they were so worn.
Yeah, I think my sleep schedule is back to normal, so hopefully we can keep the late records going for normalcy's sake. So we are back on our normal recording schedule, but we are in the off season, which is kind of out of our normal schedule given how long the season is. Jeremiah, I wanted to ask you, is there like anything you are taking advantage of in the off season when you have these chunks of time free that you wouldn't during the regular season? I know you're a big football fan, so I'm guessing you're watching a lot of football, but is there anything else you're doing?
Yeah, that's going to say I watch more American football than I do during the soccer season. Another thing, gosh, man, and this is like such the suburban dad hobby. Like the kids and I go to the park more, play a little bit more golf than normally during the regular season when I have time to do it. Like I haven't picked up any strange or unique hobbies that I'm going to have to quit when we start playing again. But I drink more Pilsners because like you just need like an easy drinking day long thing to do. Like I've been doing that lately, which maybe it's not a new hobby, but maybe a hobby that I should dig more into as I get older and like
is that
drink more light beer.
Opposed to IPAs?
As opposed to IPAs, yes.
Okay.
Been drinking a lot of Hans Pils lately, specifically, which is like a really like clean, easy drinking beer. So I appreciate that. But I'm guessing you asked because you have something else you're doing.
I've been intentionally trying to like, I think I've talked about this on the show before, but trying to like recover some of the life that I've given to soccer back for myself and not just let everything I do be controlled by soccer. And so been like, getting into older hobbies, but then trying to find new ones as well. So I actually started the first fiction book that I've read in like a decade, probably. And I'm actually about to finish it. So I was afraid I was going to read a chapter and then put it down and never touch it again, but I'm actually almost done with it. So I'm proud of that. The other thing I did this weekend, I don't think if I let you guess for like an hour, I don't think you could, but I did a stained glass class the other day.
Okay.
And I very much enjoyed it to the extent that I'm like, maybe I'm about to spend like $400 on equipment to have a little stained glass studio at my house.
I love that. That does remind me. I spend more time shopping for records during the off season. I'm just thinking about like money you don't need to spend on something. Like I have more time to go like to the new Waterloo Records on South Lamar. So my mom got really into stained glass when I was probably 10 years old. Did spend the money on that, and we have some like very small pieces probably around the house still. So yeah, that seems like a good hobby for you to dig into. And do you want to recommend this book, or I noticed you said you read a book of fiction, but you didn't say what it was. Is that because you're embarrassed by it, or you don't know if you like it or not yet because you're not finished?
I do like it. I'm worried about, because of what the book is, that I'll get a bunch of recommendations that are like it, and I'm not sure I want them, but it is it's a book called, I think it's A Tainted Cup, which is part of a series called The Shadow of the Leviathan. And so it's kind of it's in like a fantasy universe, but it's more of like a detective novel than anything. But I've was recommended by a podcast I listened to, and I've very much been enjoying it.
Well, good for you. So like, what I'm hearing is don't send in all of your fantasy book recommendations.
Yeah, because I'm genuinely not really much of a fantasy fan in movies or anything. And so like, yeah, if you do send in a recommendation, make sure it's less fantastical than this book. This is maybe my limit.
one of the other things I do is I usually read Lord of the Rings when I have time, reread it again. And so that's something that might happen during this offseason.
All right, I guess maybe we should talk about soccer stuff now.
Let's talk about soccer stuff. Yeah, people are like, what did we just download? Why are we listening to this?
We need this, listeners. Give this to us.
Exactly. I was just talking about how I like to you before we started recording about how much I love the offseason because we're not so bound by here's what happened last week, here's what happened this week, here's the news. But we have a little more room to roam, but maybe that's to our detriment with the way we started this show. Maybe we shouldn't have this much free time.
All right, where should we start here, Jeremiah?
I mean, the biggest news of the week is not just FC news, but MLS news, which has been rumored for quite a long time, is that the owners were looking at switching the calendar of the league from where it is right now to more like the international schedule, European schedule, particularly where it would start late summer, run through late May. And so we got the news that starting in the 2027-2028 season, because now our seasons will have multiple years in them, like basketball and hockey.
That's one of the downsides of this, is having to say 2 years when you're talking about a season.
Yeah. Well, but it's way better than, the hardest one is the NFL, where the season is during 1 year and the Super Bowl is during the next year. And then I never know which season we're talking about. So at least this one's cleaner than that. But
sorry, I cut you off. Finish telling the people what we're talking about.
Yeah. So the league announced this past weekend that we'll go to European style calendar, late July to April, regular season, playoffs in May, mid-season break in league play, because I think one of the questions that came up a lot is like, how do you deal with cold weather? So the league will be off in January, second half of December, and some of February, right? And then return there. And then you also get a little bit the question that we talked about, I think, was it last week when somebody asked about the move and when we predicted what we might want, is that what we're going to get is in 2027 in the spring is like a mini 2027 season. 14 matches, some kind of playoff will lead to, what is it, Leagues Cup, CONCACAF Champions League? I don't even remember right now what the reward is.
Yeah, it'll be like qualifying for any of the extracurricular tournaments will still happen during that. They're calling it the sprint season, which is the most like corporate boardroom thing I've ever heard for naming a sports competition. But there'll still be qualifications and stuff on the line during this sprint season. So it'll just be short, but the stakes are kind of the same, right? Like we can debate in 2027 whether or not people will care about this little season, but we can save that for later.
Yeah, for sure. And what I really, really hope out of the season is that the team that wins the cup, the star they put on their jersey, is half the size of the other stars they have over their jersey, because it's only half a season.
I guess there's been some discussed pros and cons of this. Let's start with the benefits here. Like, what are why is MLS doing this to begin with, I guess?
Well, it's interesting in the headlines were just like, oh, MLS aligns with all the best leagues in the world. And then there wasn't a whole ton of content. There were quotes about it. But I mean, I think you've talked about this maybe this transfer window, maybe the year before. But one of the big things on the on-field, like soccer quality side of this, is like where the transfer window is compared to the rest of the world. So maybe go into that.
Yeah, so the fact that our transfer windows don't line up, that our main window is in the winter when most of the world is mid-season, getting on the same schedule as those leagues is going to be a big deal. And I'm guessing a lot of our listeners probably understand why, but I think it's worth really digging into the details. So an example that like Tom Bogert uses a lot is, let's say player X, let's name him Jeremiah Bentley. Jeremiah Bentley is a young upcoming player in Argentina. He's got 2 offers, one from MLS, one from the Premier League. MLS's current transfer window ends before the Premier League transfer window. Jeremiah's agent is saying, hey, I think we can make more money. I personally, the agent, can make more money if we get us sold to the Premier League instead of to MLS. So let's hold out for that one. MLS's window closes while that player is waiting out for the Premier League. And then maybe that Premier League offer falls through and doesn't come through. And the player's like, oh, well, maybe I do want to go to MLS. It's too late at that point. The window's closed. So aligning with that will be much better and put us on even footing. And then also, MLS's window is going to stay open longer than some of the European windows. So we could even benefit from that, where that same player, Jeremiah Bentley in Argentina, looking to make a move, he's holding out for his Premier League offer. Premier League window closes. MLS's window is still open. So even if we're the backup plan, we could still fall into some really good talent that we would have missed out on otherwise.
Yeah, and then on this is true on the team side too, then, because teams will be more likely to be interested in selling to like a MLS club because the windows are aligned, because they are then able to go to pursue a backup plan.
Yeah, because I think so. And like it helps that way. And then also helps on the outgoing transfers, which I think could help the incoming transfers too, in a weird way. So put a pin in that. And let's say you're an MLS club. It actually happened this year a few times, but you're an MLS club in the summer window when everyone else is like the rest of the world is doing their big shopping. A European team comes in for one of your best players, and you have the choice of turning down a big payday so that you can stay competitive in your current season, or selling one of your best players during the most critical time of the season. And this happened in Minnesota, right? They sold Tani Oluwaseyi. Tom Bogert or Paul Tenori, or maybe both, were reporting that they were also getting offers for Pereira, their attacking midfielder. And they turned them down because like, we can't sell our two best players in the same window as we're preparing for the playoffs. And so they had to make those decisions twice in the same window. That's not going to happen anymore. Like, we'll be on the same schedule. We can keep our best players during the season. We can sell them during the off season when everyone else is doing their big shopping too. So Jeremiah Bentley, again, he's less likely to get stuck in an MLS team who won't sell him to Europe if we're on that same schedule, because they don't want to sell him when they're preparing for the playoffs. It'll be the same window. So when he does come to MLS and kill it, that MLS team will be willing to sell him when that summer window, or when that summer window is open.
Well, and speaking of playoffs, there's two different things about the playoffs that open up here. I was thinking, number one, just because we were talking about Minnesota, there will be no longer conflicts with the FIFA windows. So, for example, I believe Minnesota and LAFC both won their first round playoff matches 2 weeks ago now, but there's still like the international window open, and so there'll be 3 weeks between when those teams won their playoff round and then when they play again, which is a real momentum killer in every way possible. And then secondly, the playoffs are no longer up against the most popular American sport. So we're looking at MLS playoffs in May up against the early rounds of the NBA and NHL playoffs, not up against college football and NFL. So it's like, for exposure wise, that's got to be a better thing for the league too.
Yeah, it helps with just easier schedule making, cleaner schedule making, fewer games or maybe no games during international windows, meaning that MLS teams aren't missing some of their best players during games that really matter for a lot of these teams. So that's great. As far as, the up against football, I don't know. You're up against football at some point in the season anyway. I guess these are like money wise and viewership wise, like the playoffs are your biggest thing. And so putting it in a window where there's not football, but to me, I feel like if MLS is going to be taken seriously at any point in time, they can't really think about that kind of stuff. They just need to like tread your own path, like do your own thing. And if people are going to pay attention, they'll pay attention. Like the scheduling is least important to that. I think we'll get to this point later, but just like putting a good product on the field is the most important thing. And this helps us do that.
Yeah. And I would say, as part of that overlapping fan base, the MLS Cup and the SEC championship game were at the same time last year. And as a Texas fan, like, it made it really easy to watch the SEC championship game. And I don't know who's going to be playing the MLS Cup in May in 2028, but I would watch that game over whatever first round NBA match is going to watch. But yeah, let's go to what you talked about right now. Like, this is one of the things that Paul Tenorio wrote about in The Athletic, like this feels like we're talking about Austin FC now. This creates potential for greatness, but there's still this other side of the equation. Like now the schedule's aligned. Now we don't have these conflicts. We'll talk about the TV deal in a minute and how that probably helps too. But there's like teams still have to spend money. Like there's no doubt that the product on the field needs to be better in order for this league to be what many of us want it to be and what like Don Garber talks about it, like the long-term goal for the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the primary thing that needs to happen for this league to grow and become what both the people who run it think it can be and what we as fans hope it can be, the ambition has to be there. And so all of this realignment, the schedule changes, this is removing hurdles, removing obstacles that is getting in the way of people who have ambition and are unable to act upon it. This is doing that. But the league at some point needs to let the ambition flow. Like they need to let these ambitious owners spend their money and bring in more talent and make the product on the field better. Like I said, at the end of the day, that is what is going to be what moves the needle here. And this helps do that, but you still have to follow up with the spending.
Yeah, I absolutely have to do that, right? This is when you think about this league versus the others, like, the weird place it's in is like the competition is both other American sports and the competition is the fact that we have so many access to all the best leagues in the world. And even like aligning with that schedule, there's only so many games that a person can watch in a day. And so like the quality has to be there to get people excited about it, or they'll just watch Premier League and La Liga and the European Cup and Liga MX and all those other things too, right? So, the play on the field has to reflect what everybody wants it to be in order to make a difference. And I think just the biggest challenge or the biggest opposition, I think, as always, this is back on the schedule thing, has come from like the cold weather clubs. But I don't know, as somebody who's been in a game where it's 102 at kick in Austin, like I don't have that much sympathy. I guess it's probably not like life threatening. Nobody's going to lose their toes, but still, that seems a little bit uncommon too.
Yeah, I mean, the cold weather thing is one thing because teams are going to be training and playing in places where the cold weather is inevitable. Like there's going to be some bad weather games. With that winter break, they're avoiding some of that. I think they're going to shift around the home scheduling for some of those teams, which is the thing they do for the Southern teams too, right? Like they'll move, like Austin didn't play many, was it like August one season that we just didn't have any home games or something? And like, that's already happening. And I don't know, maybe like whenever I hear some of the national media talking about this, they'll throw in like, oh yeah, well, it's hard to play in Austin when it's 105. It's like, well, you're acting like that happened once. It's like, that's most of our season, right? And so to shift it away from that, like selfishly, I am thrilled about this. I do get though, like say Minnesota, like or like any of these northern teams, it's nice in the summer there. And that's when they want to go out and be outside and do all this stuff. And so I feel for them there. And I think from the ownership perspective, like they're probably losing revenue because of they're not playing and getting the attendance they would in their best weather months. But I mean, the trade-off I think is worth it. And then as far as like how many games will be impacted by the bad weather, is it more than like how many games got canceled for thunderstorms and like bad weather, stuff like that in the Southern teams or like the warm weather teams? Like it's been quite a few the last few years, right? Just Austin has had how many games postponed
it's
or
like multiple
or
games
moved.
every year at this point. Yeah, I agree. And why don't you touch on the winter break too? Because I think that's going to be, it's not super uncommon in the world, but I feel like it's uncommon for like for sports fans here in general.
Yeah, so they're going to take a break from like early December to early February or mid-December to mid-February, something like that. It's going to be a long break. It's going to be weird, right? Like we're talking about content. When we have our long off seasons, it's okay. We're ending one season, moving into another. You have transfer window stuff. which we'll have in that time as well. There'll be a winter transfer window still. It'll be our secondary window. Um, but it's going to be strange having that long of a break to play these games, take such a long break, and then come back and start playing again. I don't think it's ideal, but again, I think it's a minor hurdle towards a greater goal.
Let's go to the other big announcement that we had this week before we talk about rumored changes that have not been announced yet. So the thing that was also came out this week is that MLS is not going to be on Apple TV Plus as a separate subscription anymore. Be part of the standard Apple TV package. I guess I don't know. I read that like Apple's added F1, and so it'll be also on the same package too. So maybe that gets more eyes in front of them. We did see that season ticket holders now get free Apple TV. So I don't know if you pay for Apple TV. I do. So I'm going to save money now on this deal, on a subscription. And then also we get this notice that Garber said the terms of the deal with Apple changed. So the TV deal is going to end earlier after the 2028-2029 season. I mean, I think it's good because way more people are going to have access to soccer MLS games. And if we go back to the previous discussion, we're going to assume that they're going to put more compelling games on the field. So more people being able to watch better soccer is probably good for this league.
Yeah, it like you could read the headline and think, okay, they're restructuring this deal already. This must mean it's a bad thing for MLS. But yeah, when you read into the details, it kind of doesn't feel that way, right? Like they're shortening it, but they're getting paid more for the years that they are going through. And then they'll be able to renegotiate earlier, which was part of the criticism of that initial deal, right? Was that it was so long and for so little money that, like, what if the 2026 World Cup does revolutionize soccer in America and then MLS is tied into this deal for super long term? Like it's shorter now. So it seems like a pretty good deal as a consumer. It seems like a great deal. And like for the concerns of it being difficult to find, it's still not over the air where you're watching prime time on a network and then a game comes on. It's still not that, but it's still much easier to access than it was before. And I think that's a good thing. So hopefully this is a good thing. It can turn into a better thing when that deal is negotiated, either staying with Apple or going elsewhere, because they've seen such success after the World Cup and after all these changes that the league is growing. Will that happen? I don't know, but yeah, seems fine for now.
Yeah, I think I just saw today that like Apple TV has, I think, 60 million subscribers, which has to be, I mean, that's way more than people that are paying for Apple TV Plus. And it's, I don't know. It seems like probably more people didn't watch TV over the air with an antenna anymore. I just tried to do that the other day and I couldn't get my antenna to work, which was really annoying. So the other thing I think we should talk about is this plan move, which is maybe voted on and maybe we don't know about, because a lot of the news that we got about the 2027-2028 season talked about how there are other details to be revealed. But we believe that the league will move to a single table format, which means instead of an Eastern Conference and Western Conference, there'll be 5 divisions organized geographically. So teams will play home and away against division rivals. And then you play the other 24 teams in the league once, which I think as a fan is really interesting in terms of really appealing in terms of like getting to see more teams and not getting these weird things where like Austin plays Columbus and doesn't play them for 5 years. But we play teams in other, we play San Jose 7 times a year, 5 years in a row, like whatever. Like there's way more normalcy and predictability about the schedule. So I'm really looking forward to the way that goes too.
Yeah. One thing, I think the most interesting thing for our purposes is what would Austin's division look like? They've talked about keeping regional rivalries together. So we're assuming Dallas and Houston will be in that group. Who would the other 3 teams be? I think there's several directions you could go here.
Yeah. And I think it's a good question Austin has no historical rivalries to call upon, but so who are the next closest teams? I mean, it's Kansas City, St. Louis. Is that it? Probably. I mean, you have to find a third somewhere. You have another one somewhere, but I don't know what that would be in. But it would depend upon. But if they make like a Midwestern division, and if that doesn't work for Austin either, then maybe you look at like going west. But it feels like you'll almost have a division of California teams by themselves.
Yeah, the like rumored, or I guess like the speculative groups that I've seen would put Austin with maybe some of the California teams. And so LAFC, LA Galaxy, and San Diego, and then the 3 Texas teams would be a group. I also know that in like this focus group thing that MLS has been running for the last year, just random fans online, one of the potential group shared a while back. So who knows, like many grains of salt with this, but one of the potential groups that was pitched to this focus group was the 3 Texas teams and then the Cascadia group. So Portland, Seattle, Vancouver. And so, and then like you could do that and just say like, okay, here's these 2 regional groups. Let's just throw them together. Or I think the other way you could go is like cut a chunk out of the middle of the country and do Texas and then like St. Louis, Chicago, and I don't know, Kansas City, but then you're separating rivals at that point. It's like you probably want Kansas City and Colorado to be together. Or like I would guess Kansas City, Colorado, Real Salt Lake would stay together as a pod. So splitting them up is hard. Splitting Chicago from Eastern Conference rivals would be hard. So I think the West Coast is probably the most logical way to go. But which group, who knows?
Geographically, it seems like that southern group is probably the most logical one, right? Because then that leaves the Cascadia teams with San Jose and RSL and somebody else to like
probably Colorado then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would make sense then.
Oh man, I just hate LA so much. Playing them twice a year.
It'll be like
both of them twice a year
to play them more, but also like at least one of them is usually good most of the time.
Right.
And so from a competitive standpoint, maybe it would be nicer to play Kansas City more often.
Yeah, often both of them are good, right? Which is a real problem.
Yeah. Is that all of the schedule change, MLS ground shifting news that we need to cover for now?
I think it is. So let's go ahead and take this first break, and then we'll talk about just a tiny bit of Austin FC news and get into some listener questions.
All right, hang tight. We'll be right back.
When no one is around.
Moo Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FEF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FEF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment that you can check out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to fef.law to find out what makes FEF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's fef.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balance. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending. And I went to an event there last week at the Esperanza branch, which if there were matches to watch, you could register for free parking there, but you can't. So what else can you do, Landon?
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident, so learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. And to learn more, go to www.goamplify.com/mootower-soccer. All right, we are back. We're going to finish the listener questions we couldn't get to last week. But first, a few more pieces of Austin FC news, including MLS free agency and a few hot prospects who are on the market right now. But also some Austin FC players who are out on international duty. We'll do a quick roundup there. Jeremiah, how did our boys do during this international window?
Well, I'm just going to go in order the way that I looked him up. This is not in order of performance, like best to worst, but unfortunately, the first team I looked at was Ukraine. So Alexander's Fatak goes the full 90 in the 4-0 loss to France. Unused sub and a 3-1 win over Belgium. I feel like those things may be related.
I thought he got a couple of minutes in Belgium, but I think it was like 3.
Okay, maybe he got a little bit then.
He didn't
not
play
start
most
versus
of the
Belgium.
game.
Yeah. Yes, from whatever site you go to give your like player ratings, they were all bad. Well, as you would expect from a 4-0 loss for both him and the other central defender. Mirto Uzuni comes on at 60 minutes and gets the assist in the game winner over Andorra. So he picks up something on the stat sheet, and then he went all 90 in the 2-0 loss to England. So I think that's pretty solid performance from Uzuni, given everybody else on the field and what happened with them.
Yeah, and I think both of those guys, so Svatak and Uzuni, so Ukraine and Albania, have qualified for the playoff round for the UEFA World Cup qualifying. So it's a big deal for both of them. I think especially for Albania to have qualified above Serbia in that group, both from a status perspective and then just like a cultural perspective. For Albania to knock out Serbia will be huge for that country, I'm sure. But very cool to see them get there, because I don't think it's a team that is normally in that position.
No, that's absolutely true. And then the other two guys, I think they both played one of their two international matches. I think the second match is either today or maybe tomorrow for both of them, so we won't know for sure. But Danny Pereira goes 90 and a 1-0 win over Australia. I saw him make a good. I thought he had the assist, but
I think he
guess
got the hockey assist. It was like
that's what I was thinking. It had to be the hockey assist. Yeah,
really nice pass from Danny on that one.
And then Julio Gascante was an unused sub in the 1-0 loss to Haiti that Costa Rica had. So good to see the guys getting some action.
Costa Rica's in trouble too. They are looking unlikely to qualify for the World Cup at this point, which is Costa Rica is expected to make World Cups in CONCACAF. They're not the favorite, but they're expected to make it, and it looks like they might not right now. Venezuela, of course, already eliminated, but good to see Danny getting his chance here.
Yeah, and when I was casually researching these, I wrote 1-0 win over Haiti, just assuming that that's what happened. And then I had to go back and look. I'm like, oh no, they actually lost. No, the other news we saw today is Ilie Sanchez gets a call up for the Catalonia national team. So I feel like you know this better than anybody. So if you don't mind, can you go into like what that is and what this means?
Yeah, so Catalonia is a region of Spain. It is one of the culturally distinct regions of Spain. Also, politically, it is a separatist region where a pretty good percentage of the population would like to not be part of Spain anymore, them and the Basque Country. And so they're doing a series of friendlies. They played in the Basque Country last night against the Palestinian national team, which is, none of these are recognized by FIFA. So these are unofficial friendlies. Catalonia will do this every once in a while just to do it, or for various visibility reasons for certain causes. That's what this one is. And so it's unrecognized teams, unrecognized nations who are using a platform, using the international break to shine a light on what is going on in Palestine. And so they did it in the Basque Country the other night. They're doing it in Barcelona on Tuesday night, I believe. And Ilie Sanchez, born in Barcelona, got called up to this Catalan national team, which is very cool. I mean, cool in general, but also cool for a guy. I imagine, just knowing what we know about Ilie, it's probably special for the cause for him as well.
Yeah, it was great. It was good to see that today. But there's I looked around a little bit. There's effectively nowhere you can watch this game on TV in the United States, right? Like, I don't.
It looks like it's like on regional Spanish television, and so maybe you could find like an illegal stream. I didn't say that. Somewhere. I didn't tell you to do that. But that might even be hard to find just because of where it's being broadcast.
All right, well, let's talk about MLS free agency. You mentioned this, and then we'll get into listener questions. So we've got no Austin news yet. We won't have that until probably 8 or 9 days from now. This is also the curse of the show where I say that, and the list comes out tomorrow, which is fine because that list comes out tomorrow. I'll have something to talk about next week. But some other teams have started making announcements, and there's at least a couple interesting prospects out there.
Yeah, the two biggest ones so far are Walker Zimmerman and Christian Espinoza. Walker Zimmerman was a designated player. I think he's in his early 30s. I don't know his exact age. Was a DP at Nashville. They're not willing to give him a DP deal. The reporting is a little nebulous on what exact number he's looking for, but given his age and his position, you would expect maybe someone could get him on a max TAM deal. And then Christian Espinoza, designated player for San Jose, one of the best players in the league consistently for the last several years. And San Jose had to make a decision on his option by this summer. And for one reason or another, did not do that. I don't know if it was an oversight or they thought maybe they could lowball him and get him on a new deal anyway. But for whatever reason, they missed the deadline to pick up his option. So he is a free agent as well. Which one of these guys should we start with? Because like Austin is going to be in the market for a few players this window. Does Austin have a chance at either of these guys? And would we want to have them on the team? Like, are they the right fit for us right now?
Okay, I don't want to answer the like, does Austin have the money part of that question? But like, Christian Espinoza is by far the more interesting one for me. One, because I feel like I've grown to hate him over the time that he's played in San Jose, and there's been all this like back and forth stuff. Like more players who are goal dangerous is good. So like if Austin can find a way to do that, like let's absolutely go do that. I don't know, Walker Zimmerman, I feel like I'm less excited about that, even though at one point in the history of the show, I was like, oh man, Matt Beasler is the Walker Zimmerman of Austin. He's going to be the anchor of this club for years in central defense, and he's going to be great. And I feel like Walker's time has passed, I think largely from some injuries and stuff that he's had, but I mean, he seems to have faded quickly, which is a little bit, atypical for a central defender.
I mean, he missed some of this season with a concussion, I believe. Which, I mean, Matt Beasler as well, right? Like some of his stuff was concussion based and ended his career early. So nothing to sneeze at, but it's not like an age related thing necessarily. I'll say like Walker Zimmerman, if we're looking to play the back three, like we probably do need to add a center back regardless. And then especially if we're looking to play more back three, we certainly need to add another guy who can play minutes. And Walker Zimmerman would be a star. Like he's a very, very good MLS player. That being said, like given Austin's restrictions, like, yeah, we have room to sign a TAM player. Is that where we need to do it? Does that it doesn't solve our problems because our defense was already pretty good. It would make our defense better if he can stay healthy, but it doesn't solve a lot of our core issues with this team. So that's where I think maybe that one doesn't make sense. And then probably because it doesn't make sense, we're maybe not the team who's going to give Zimmerman the best offer. Christian Espinoza is a more complicated one. Like actually maybe a more simple one. He's almost certainly going to get a DP deal. And we do not have an open DP spot. So, unless we can open one up, which we'll get into in some of our listener questions, whether or not we can or should or could open up a DP spot. Like if we could, Espinoza is not a bad option there, but at the time being, we don't have space for him.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to get into that part of it. I was like, yes, bring me Christian Espinoza, and like, don't force me to exist in reality about whether we can add him or not. But but these are like, there's gonna be a bunch more announcements to come. And maybe there's some other guys who are interesting and within Austin's range that the team can add. So this is like I guess, no, we won't get this. I can say when we change the season structure, we get Hope Springs Eternal and it will be literally be spring like in baseball, but I guess it'll still be a little bit off. But yes, Hope Winter's Eternal in Major League Soccer. Yeah.
All right. Should we get into listener questions now?
Yeah, let's do them.
All right. Where did we leave off here? I realized that when we ended last week that we probably should have read down the list before we ended the show, and we maybe could have answered some more topical ones, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, it's this is a little bit of inside baseball, but it's where the three red lines are near the bottom of one of the pages. So let's start with the Kevin Cavanaugh question that I'll ask you. Can you start a GoFundMe to reimburse Austin FC ownership the $12.3 million transfer fee so they will buy out Uzuni's contract?
I already contribute to a GoFundMe to Austin FC, and it's called my season ticket price. So I will not be giving any additional money to millionaires and billionaires to fix their mistakes. But yeah, would you be willing to give extra money to see Uzuni go?
I will not, but I want to give you, and maybe this is going to be another question, but like, I'm going to give you the floor to say, like, do you think at this point that you agree that Maurizio Uzuni's contract is a mistake and it's time to move on?
I believe we'll probably answer this more in depth in some later questions. I think it is worth exploring ways to move on. I don't think a buyout is on the table, probably.
Yeah, I don't know what the biggest buyout in league history is, but like, this would have.
I think Toronto had 2 of them this year, probably.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, don't do that either. And somehow that pension fund, like some of the teachers of the the province of Ontario have a lot more money than Anthony Precourt, and they can afford that kind of deal, right? When you come down to that buyout.
Let's move on to a similar question from Ethan Reinhardt. He has a few questions here. First one, I would love to hear. Oh, this is for me. So I'd love to hear what Landon has to say with regards to the Uzuni Vasquez problem.
I think you could just summarize that problem, and see where we go from there.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan does go on to say that Vasquez won't be available at the beginning of the season, so Uzuni will get a chance to run out at striker and maybe get back into form. But when Vasquez comes back, it's going to be interesting, right? Because they were struggling to find, and I don't want to put it all on them. I think the team was struggling to find a way to play well with those 2 guys as like a dual striker system. So that's going to be something that needs to be figured out, is getting those guys on the field at the same time. And then again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, putting pieces around them that maximize the potential for that. Because I think both were a problem. They were both kind of doing the same thing. And then we did not have the players on the field to really do what we needed to do to get those guys into good positions regularly. So finding some type of chance creator that can get them through, that can get them into space more often and get into dangerous positions more often, it's part of it. But yet they do need to figure out, because more than likely those 2 guys will be on the field together next year. Do you do just a 2 striker system again and hope that they'll figure it out with more time? Or do you play that front 3 shape and play Uzuni as more of a wide forward or a winger and try to let him play that position? Because that is where he plays with Albania. He played there in Spain some. We didn't really get to see much of it here because they were either playing the 2 striker system or Brandon Vasquez got hurt and we didn't get to see them on the field at all. So it's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be the biggest question of next year, like, because they're not bringing in a DP spot probably. So how you get those 2 guys on the field and productive is the big one.
Well, and the thing that worries me the most about what you said is like with more time, because there's not really going to be more time, because Brandon Vasquez is going to come back from injury with the season ongoing, with a trend of some sort, either, Uzuni is succeeding and scored a bunch of goals and it's going to be weird to insert it back in, or Austin's failing and doesn't have a bunch of goals and it's going to be hard to figure out where he fits. But yeah, what happened this season makes a challenge for next season too. And like we've talked about over and over and over again, like if you had somebody that could deliver dangerous balls to either one or both of these guys, it would be like a different discussion about this team. And maybe that comes in during the offseason, but it doesn't seem super likely.
All right, let's I'm going to ask you this one too, since I kind of answered your last one. This one's from Matt Killingsworth. We got better this year, no question about that, but we're still below average, average to below average with large valleys of disappointment. What do you think the next step that needs to be taken to get better as a club as a whole and as a team on the pitch? I have an answer, but I'm curious to see what y'all think. So Matt, let us know what your answer is after we answer this. But Jeremiah, what is the next step that this club needs to take?
Show up, Matt. Tell us how we're wrong. I feel like that's the only possible option that can come here. I'm gonna hate this answer, but this is like this is the for real. This is not like my Christian Espinoza answer. We need to sell Owen Wolf for gigantic trucks fulls of money, that Austin can finally have some flexibility in building a roster going forward. And I'm probably gonna cry when that happens, but I just don't see, like, Austin's been for 3 years dancing around the edges, always up against the cusp of the cap, never able to make deals that, like, there's no TAM players. There's almost no TAM players. Like, there's never able to make deals that make a difference. And like the only way that you fix that is with money. And so that's what I would do.
That is 100% my answer to Jeremiah.
Oh crap. Okay. Well,
is
sorry.
to sell a player, open up cap space. Like that's what you need to do. And Owen's the best option right now as far as like how much you could actually get. I've seen this debate quite a bit. Like because Owen is still on a supplemental spot, it would probably make more sense to sell Danny now and capitalize on that since he is taking up a senior roster spot, and then sell Owen closer to the end of his current contract where he would take up a bigger chunk of your roster budget. But I mean, you kind of got to take it when you can get it. And then if the right number comes in, you got to do it. So, but yeah, that would open up so much flexibility for us that we just have, like you said, we've never had it.
And the troublesome thing about that is there's nobody behind those two guys. If you asked me this question 3 years ago, it would have been sell Owen or Danny, or sorry, 2 years ago, or last year, or this year. Like that's the way to do it. So, becomes concerning about like if you create that flexibility, where you go next.
Yeah, and we said that's the first step. The second step would be using that money on players who perform, because that's been a failing of Austin FC as well. And so even if you open up the cap space, if you don't spend it well and you don't get players who actually perform as well or better than the guy you sold, then what was the point? Mike will understand that one well, being a Tottenham fan.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's go with the Michael question. If you're in Roto's shoes, what's the magic number for selling Uzuni, and will any team on planet Earth meet that number, please?
I'll answer the second question first and say no. There's no team on Earth that Uzuni is good enough to play for right now. Talking about form, anyway. And then the number, like, yeah, what is the number? I would say, because we paid 12 million euros for him. Would you take $7 million to send him away?
Well, I feel like this is a question I would want to ask long, but like how much do we have to sell? Do we have a number we have to sell him for in order to free up his DP slot at this point, or?
I don't think so. I think that's only
only for loans, right? It's only for loans. Okay.
So if we straight up sell him, we couldn't like use any of that money for anything cap wise. But I think if we sold him, we sold him.
Available. Yeah, it feels like 7 is what you could sell him for. That maybe wouldn't. I'm not a member of the ownership group, so like it wouldn't hamstring me, but it would hamstring the ownership group in such a way that they wouldn't be willing to reinvest it in another player. And I know that everybody talks about how like Roto got a bunch for Driussi, but that was also a situation where you had a player that wanted to go back home and you had a club that wanted him. And I don't feel like that's necessarily like Uzuni does not have a team that he grew up dreaming to play for that is also super interested in him. So I don't think that you can draw that parallel. And also he doesn't have the record of success either.
Right. Based on his form over the last year, like how much would any team be willing to pay for him? And then the teams who would want him, could they afford what it's worth for us? I went back and looked at the last couple of years in the Spanish second division, and for incoming transfers, like $5-6 million is generally the upper limit for what those teams have spent the last few years for incoming transfers. So yeah, I mean, they maybe could, but at this point, they're probably looking at that money and saying, I can do better for that money right now. So they're maybe not interested in it.
Let me go to this Elliot Nguyen question for you too. It says we're getting a third kit in 2026. Is that true? There's rumors that we're getting a third kit in 2026.
Yeah, not confirmed, but it's been heavily rumored.
So what do we think it could or should or might look like?
My wish for a third kit would have been like kind of a retro looking, like the Dazed and Confused 70s version of Austin kind of thing. Since we got the Armadillo kit, that was kind of in that box. And so I think that maybe takes that off the table for a few years. And I think the last time this came up, we both kind of settled on like the violet crown look. Like that seems, the club has seemed interested in leaning into local catchphrases, local identity kind of things. And that's one of the ones they haven't really done yet. And so I think that one makes the most sense.
I think that one does too. My only pushback on that maybe is that's a super hyper local, which I realize is we're on a show that I have to explain the origins of every time I talk to anyone about it. But I feel like Days Confused is more like in the cultural zeitgeist than the City of the Violet Crown. But like, I mean, I guess if you want to sell a bunch of jerseys in Austin to people who don't even care about soccer, that's probably a great connection to have. But that's pretty niche, you know, in terms of overall community.
Is it more hyper local than the Armadillo World Headquarters?
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah, you're probably right.
we may debate on that, but this is not like Liverpool having a third jersey with the Beatles walking across Abbey Road kind of thing, right? Like this is, or even like you could have like a Stevie Ray Vaughan's hat and it would probably be more like generally culturally relevant. All that to say, like I kind of dig the idea on like going super niche and super community focused on the third jersey.
I think they won't care about it being hyper specific and hyper local. I think from a marketing perspective, they'll just want a reason to do a thing. And then from there, they'll just say, okay, make a purple jersey and make it look cool.
Yeah.
I think that's all they'll care about. If it were just random, I think it's a harder needle to thread or a harder pitch to make of like, why did you do this? Like, why is this Austin? And I don't know that anybody else needs to know about it or even buy it, like even believe that is Austin, but just to say like, oh yeah, it's an Austin thing. Don't worry about it. That's like, that's cool. All the national market needs to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm on board with that. Well, let's go ahead and take one more break and then we'll answer the rest of the questions.
All right. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin experts who are client focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com.
And our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only supports this podcast because Jeremiah, our oppressive summer schedule is over. We will not have to play through the summer in Austin anymore.
You have the most vibes-based podcast and fan base in the world because we won't be so hot all the darn time.
Can't wait to wear sweaters to more than 2 games. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. All right, we are back. We're going to continue with some Elliot and Wayne questions. This one is, the Galley girls and my wife are going to hate me for asking this, but is it time for John Gallagher to go? He's a great guy and an important Swiss Army knife, but is that actually a liability for us? Jeremiah, I want you to answer for yourself. I also want you to say what you think my answer is, and you can do that in whatever order you would like to.
Well, my answer is no, unequivocally. And I would hope that your answer is also no, but for different reasons. Like, okay, let's give you my no. And maybe this is your no or not. Or maybe we're like not agreeing here, but the number's not huge. He's above replacement player. There's all this baseball concept about like looking at like the most mediocre starter at your position and being like, are you better or worse? The concept
of replacement level, right?
Yeah, right. So I think he's above replacement level at 2 positions. And I think for a guy that is that at his number, you need to keep him around. And I would hope that like cold, hard, logical Landon reaches the same conclusion, but I'm interested to see if you don't.
No, yeah, my answer is no, but I'm guessing you could even say like what the rest of my answer is. And maybe this is too loose for you to get to the real thing. But my answer is no, we should not get rid of John Gallagher. Like, he doesn't need to leave. He just needs to not play so many minutes.
Oh yeah. Okay. I got the second part of that too. No, it's absolutely true. I'll put a plug in for this because we talk about Verdi all day sometimes. And like in Phil, I think it was his birthday maybe yesterday, maybe
Happy
today.
birthday, Phil.
Happy birthday, Phil. But Phil wrote this like, where are they now from the original 2021 Austin FC roster today, which is kind of crazy that Austin FC's been around for long enough to have a where are they now. But one of the things that struck me is like he's talking about the guys that are still with the team and like the number of games that Gallagher has both played and started in, I think are second only maybe to Brad Stuver, which I think everybody would say from every player in the history of the team, like Brad Stuver is the person who should have played the most games. But yeah, I think I would agree with you there where like, yeah, John Gallagher is surprisingly really, really high on that list too.
Yeah, and this is a common misconception. People think I hate John. They probably maybe some people thought my answer was going to be, yeah, get rid of him. Absolutely not. I genuinely hope John Gallagher retires as an Austin FC player. I mean that. I just hope between now and when that happens, he plays like 700 minutes a season.
Is this why John thinks you hate him?
Well, we don't even have to get into that on air, but social media clips is why John thinks I hate him.
All right, let's go to the last Elliot question. What does the next season schedule look like given the World Cup schedule? When we are missing even 2 or 3 of the guys, we feel it. And you actually did the research, look at the calendar. So maybe you should answer this one.
Yeah, I mean, so MLS is going to break during the World Cup. So for the World Cup itself, this shouldn't be an issue for the most part. I'm guessing maybe there will be some games right before where they need to play. Like, I mean, we've played through international windows the last forever seasons, right? And so maybe like leading up to it, there will be a game or two where guys are already reporting for camp or whatever and miss there. But we shouldn't miss too many players for any games, if maybe 1 or 2 games for the World Cup itself. But if we do, like, so who are the guys that we could be missing? Potentially Uzuni, potentially Svatok. That's kind of it, right? Like, I don't think anybody, like Julio still has a chance, but it seems unlikely at this point. So it seems like we will probably be doing okay on international breaks next year. Because it's the World Cup, there's not that many games of consequence happening in the other windows. And so if there's an important Austin FC game and there's a friendly that is going on and we kind of need someone to stay, maybe they'll stay because the game doesn't matter that much. So I think we could end up looking okay during international breaks next year.
Well, we just talked about before we start recording too, like what does that mean for us? Because we're going to have a giant gap in the middle of the season, you know, and then I talked about like, because we've done this before when there was a World Cup, but it was when it was in Qatar. And like, I mean, I love
in the
getting
off season for us, right?
Yeah. It's in the off season. And it was great to get up at like 5 a.m. or 4:30 in the morning and watch like early morning matches before work. And I don't know, like, so 2 things, like it'll be weird for us to have that big break. And then I got to find a way to stay gainfully employed when there's like soccer games on all day long. And we'll see how that one goes too.
Yeah. So if y'all have ideas for what kind of content you want during long international breaks in the middle of the season, let us know. And we're kind of expecting to have a clear idea of what next year is going to look like in the not so distant future. So hopefully we'll have a clear answer for that soon. Next question is from Boo Boo. Boo Boo asks, would Biru be a good midfielder? He is creative, has accurate shots and dribbling skills. Jeremiah, what do you think?
You know, he's played soccer for 15 years and nobody's ever coached him. Has decided that they should put him there. It's like that. I'm gonna lean on that, but I feel like he would be an incomplete midfielder in the way that every midfielder on Austin FC is incomplete, and I don't know that he's a solution to any of Austin's problems right now. Right? Like, who are you gonna put him on the field instead of? It's like he kind of does a lot of the Danny stuff, but not quite as well. So like, if Danny's not around, maybe, but just don't feel like it's like the best use of his skills.
Yeah, I mean, short answer, I think yes, he could play midfield, like you said. Like he's got the profile and like the ball skills that he would do okay in the midfield. But yeah, I agree. Like not in a way that having him there 90 minutes a match anyway, because the way we use him, he ends up in the midfield quite a bit, right? Because of those ball skills. But I think there's a difference in if you look at like a traditional overlapping fullback. there's often a reason why the overlapping fullback is an overlapping fullback and not a winger. It's because they're good at kind of arriving in those moments and doing it in specific moments, as opposed to receiving out there 1v1 and taking someone on. Like, it's a different skill set. And I think that is true of Biro here, where he's good at kind of floating in the midfield and popping up into spaces and then doing those overlaps, doing the underlaps. He's good at that kind of stuff. But as far as like being there all the time and kind of controlling a game, I think he might be lacking in certain areas, which is just, I'm guessing, I don't know this for a fact. I'm guessing when he was younger, he did play further up the field. And it happens to almost every player that you meet your limit at some point as you go through youth ranks and you get moved back in the field and you maybe end up as a fullback. And it seems like, again, I don't know, but I'm guessing that there's a good chance that's what happened to him. And that's why he plays fullback now.
We got a lot of Robert Miller questions, but wait, do you have a tiny Oscar award behind you? And why have I not noticed that?
Oh, I do. It is, it was given to me at a work retreat for something I can't remember. Maybe because I got a promotion that year at work and they gave me a little award trophy for it.
It's very meaningful. I can tell it meant a lot to you. Glad it made it just on the edge of the camera.
I also have this award, which I made and gave to myself, which is a gold medal in friendship.
That you made and gave to yourself. Yes. Nobody knows a friend better than the person who gave it to themselves. I agree with you. Is that a recent award too?
I think it's from last year.
Okay.
I fell off this year. I didn't win it this year.
Oh my gosh. It's pretty bad when you can't win your own friendship award. Like, actually, I was mean to me this year, and I'm going to have to give this to somebody else. All right. Sorry.
Exactly.
Robert Miller questions.
Okay. Robert Miller. Okay. As is tradition now, I think we can call this a tradition now. Robert Miller, again, sends us a bunch of questions. So we save them for the end and get through as many as we can. So where should we start here, Jeremiah?
Okay. Out of Bukhari, Uzuni, and Vasquez, who do you think Austin should use their buyout, if any, on this year? Which players would you have Austin buy out? I think we've talked about the math, and there's no way that the math works for any of the DPs. I guess Bukhari is maybe more affordable than the other guys, but I'm
He's
less
probably
interested in buying him
like
out.
To buy out, right?
Yeah, right. He's the one I would least like to buy out. So if you're forced to buy out an Austin player who wasn't out of contracts, this removes Julio from the conversation. Is there somebody whose deal is so bad you would buy them out at this point?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like, I'm not saying I would never, because maybe players become available that you need a roster spot or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, we didn't really need to, but we have to if we want this person. In that scenario, sure. But I don't think, especially of these three, like opening up one of the DP spots again, like for a price would be interesting. But I don't know that any of these guys are so bad or such a bad situation that this ownership group is going to be willing to buy out any of them.
Yeah, I
don't think they should either, to be clear. Like, I feel like, again, shop them if you can. Like, if you think you could sell Uzuni, try. But I don't think it's to the point where buying them out is the answer right now.
Yeah, I mean, just because you have that available doesn't necessarily mean it's always a good decision, which is why, teams don't use both their buyouts often. I would say it's probably rare that both. I mean, one, hasn't been available for very long, but one, it's also rare that they get used.
I think for the most part, this owners don't like paying people to not work for them.
That's probably true in general. We don't even need to limit that to MLS, unless you're a college football team, because they seem to love to pay coaches to not work for them.
Okay, where should we go here?
Let's go what is Uzuni's worst PK? I feel like the playoff one.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's the worst.
It was bad. I'm struggling to even remember the Open Cup one right now, but maybe it's recency bias, but the playoff one was really bad.
Agreed. So let's go. Who do you think is the solution at striker? And I guess this is probably going to be current roster.
Yeah, I mean, for the next several months, it has to be Mirto Uzuni. But I mean, I'm a fan of the way Brandon Vasquez plays, and still believe that with the right pieces around him, he can be a really good MLS player. And so I'm still kind of holding on hope for that, and think that in the long term, his ceiling is higher there. And then also with Uzuni's skill sets, I think we could get more out of the team as a whole by playing Vasquez at striker and Uzuni elsewhere somewhere, playing around him somehow. But yeah, I'll say Vasquez long term, but we're not going to have him in the short term. So Uzuni, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And I just, Vasquez was developing. I mean, the goals weren't obviously raining for anybody, but like he was on a pretty decent run of form in the games leading up, in the matches leading up to when he got hurt,
and doing a lot of useful stuff that wasn't scoring goals. Which I think is a skill set that he has, that he can insert himself into a game in a way that is not scoring goals and be useful when he's not scoring goals. How much goodwill do you think Nico has earned by getting Austin into the playoffs?
I would say I don't want to say zero, but I don't feel like he has bought goodwill or lost himself goodwill from the season. I feel like if you're like in the range of expectations, Austin did exactly what you would expect him to be. And so I think Austin could have a disastrous season next year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him gone. Or Austin could have the same season again. And I guess he's earned enough goodwill that if Austin had the same season next year that we had this year, I would expect him to be back for a third year.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Yeah, if we sneak into the playoffs again, he's probably, well, I mean, I guess what was his contract 2+1?
I thought it was 1+1, but I don't know for sure.
That might be right. Yeah. In any case, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that were true either.
Let's go with this. I did not read this, so hopefully you did. If you read Matt Doyle's post-mortem of Austin, he said Djordjevic was poor this year. Is that a bad take, or do you agree?
I agree. So I did read this article. I agreed with a lot of what Matt Doyle said in this article. I thought this was harsh, and also this is always my accusation against Matt Doyle, is that I don't think he watches all the games and looks at like advanced stats and draws a lot of opinions based on that. I thought Djordjevic was pretty good for the most part this year. Made some mistakes, looked like a young guy sometimes, but I am encouraged by what I saw from Matej Djordjevic, and I'm looking forward to see him progress. So yeah, I don't disagree with that, or I don't agree with that take.
Well, and to be fair to Matt Doyle, well, this is the discussion we always have. No human can watch every single match, so maybe just don't be so authoritative about your take.
Don't pretend like you did.
Can't. Yeah. All right. How about, I'm going to give you this one too. Is Dubrsarski ready to start over at Ilie? If not, who's playing defensive mid next year?
He might be ready to start over Ilie by default if Ilie continues to age.
Which we all do, Landon, by the way. I'm sorry.
I don't think Dubrsarski is good enough to start if we want this team to be a competitor. So I think that's a big question mark for next year, is if we do or don't get Ilie on a new contract. Like I don't think we can rely on him to be the guy for the whole season. And I don't know that Dubrsarski is ready to be the guy for the whole season. So I think they need to find a solution at defensive mid, and that would maybe be one of my priorities if I were Rodolfo Borrell this offseason. Let's see. Oh, this one's a softball, so I'll let you do a couple in a row here. But after a full season of letting Rodo cook, do you think he's doing a better or worse job than Claudio Reyna? Maybe
Yes.
I'm sandbagging that. Maybe that's not as easy of a question as I.
No, it's an easy question. I think a more interesting question is like, is Rodo doing as good of a job as Rodo thinks he's doing?
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think there's any doubt that he's better than Claudio Reyna, and I feel like everything we learned about him, everything we learned about what Claudio Reyna did, one, makes me question like how he's successful at New York City FC, other than maybe having unlimited funds. But yeah, he's better. But man, for me, it always goes back to like this project is completely made in his image, and I don't know how the pieces fit together, and I don't have a lot of hope this is gonna be like this is a top 5 team in the West next year. So then it becomes like, what do you do at that point? At that point, that's more think that's where I would go with this.
Yeah, he has, to be fair, he has had to spend a lot of his time and energy kind of fixing the Reyna build. And I totally agree with you that, like, whether or not he's done a good job, TBD in my eyes. But to say he's done a better job than Reyna, I think is easy, just because there are a lot of contracts that Rodolfo Barella signed that make a lot of sense. And that is, some of them I'd even call good. But just the fact that they make any sense at all is higher marks than you could give Reyna for most of his tenure in Austin.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are the top 3 own goals in Austin FC history?
Okay, so I'm going to go with, obviously, one has got to be Emre Tarek, which is it's acknowledged here.
That's CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah, against
Violette in the Dominican Republic. Where was that game?
It was in the Dominican Republic because they
in a country that's not Haiti, because Violette could not play in Haiti.
Yeah, it's a lot of Haiti content on this show, which I did not expect to happen. I mean, the next one for me has got to be the Brendan Heinzike
in this year's playoffs.
Yeah, in this year's playoffs.
As far as like consequence, yeah, I think so. Like it stung more than a lot of the others, right? I don't think it's that terrible of a mistake, but it sucks still.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing that happens in the run of play, but I still believe that like Brad Stewart was in a position to save that ball, except for the deflection, and maybe that doesn't change the game overall, right? Like,
yeah,
maybe Austin still loses that game, but that one was super hard. I'm trying to think of another banger of an own goal. I don't know that I have one of those.
I'm struggling to think of a true own goal. Spiritually, one of the worst own goals in Austin FC history is the Kip Keller pass to Jared Stroud.
Yeah.
It's not statistically an own goal, but Kip Keller gets all the credit for that one.
No, that was another one I was thinking about that doesn't technically count. And then I think just chaotic goals that had some kind of consequence, like, you know, in Houston, Brad getting so far off his line, he was almost at midfield and then gets chipped and then crashes so hard into the goal mount trying to get it back that he misses 3 of the 4 games that he missed in his career. That has to be another one too. Splits
his leg open on the crossbar inside the goal.
Yeah. Again, not an own goal, but spiritually an own
goal. Second to last one. Do you expect Austin to win Copa Tejas next year? Of course I do.
This year. Yes, this year.
Unless we don't, then I've never heard of that trophy.
This is a stupid tournament. Yeah.
Last question, which I think is a pretty interesting one. Which MLS coach, if you could, would you poach and hire next year? I have some answers to this, and I think maybe they're not the same as what would be like popular opinion here.
I mean, my popular opinion here is Wilfred Nancy. It's always going to be my popular opinion, you know, on this topic, just because of what he's done in multiple places. I feel like he's a guy that's sort of figured out how to get the best out of the players in this league, to adjust to the talent that he has, to manage to like work in youth to the success of the team. So I think it's probably like one of the easiest answers to the question, but like that's my answer to the question.
So if you look at the Coach of the Year award this year, Philadelphia's Bradley Carnell won it. And then Jesper Sorensen from Vancouver was in second place. Mikey Varas from San Diego was in third place. I think if you're talking about entertaining soccer and coaching styles, your answer, Wilfred Nancy, would be one of the top ones. Mikey Varas from San Diego, like that team was fun to watch this year. The reason I wouldn't take those two right now is because I think they would struggle to play that way with Austin's current players, and that it would take a while to do it. And then Bradley Carnell, who won Coach of the Year with Philadelphia, just coaches in a much different style, right? That I think it's a very specific style that I think maybe he could use these players to implement that, but it would be a shift away from what they've done. And so I think Jesper Sorensen is on my list of like a guy who took a team that a lot of people didn't think much of and just use the pieces he already had to make something out of it. In that same category, I would put BJ Callahan, which I don't think I would have said that before this season, but to see what he did with that Nashville team, again, didn't bring in a ton of new pieces, just kind of used what he had and kind of reshaped them to work in a way that he thought they could and did a really good job. I think maybe those guys would be on top of my list for this Austin team right now.
I was thinking about Bradley Carnell being like Nico, when they hired him. Imagine like their fans were just like people talking about Nico Estevez, right? Like, this guy just got fired from somewhere else. Can't believe he's already got a job again. Now here he is, like final MLS Coach of the Year. So I think it would be pretty controversial. So I don't know who's getting fired this offseason. Maybe that's the best coach for Austin next year.
Maybe you could take one that's not coaching anywhere right now, and Jim Curtin. He could
I
be
think
an
Jim
interesting
Curtin's
one to poach as well.
Yeah, I think he's obviously a super interesting choice and like really successful. But I don't know. The thing about Philadelphia is that like integration of like the academy, like and youth players, in addition to like building people on top, and that is apparently not the way that Austin is being built.
Yeah. At least if they're trying, it's not working yet.
Oh, right. God, let's hope they're not trying to build that way.
I think that's all of them, Jeremiah. Did we do it?
We did it. It took us 2 weeks, but we did it.
Apologies for the folks who had to wait a second week. Hopefully it was worth the wait. Before we wrap up, we'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Come find us on the internet. Check out the Patreon. Jeremiah, is there anything we missed? Anything else we need to wrap up before we sign off here?
I think we're good now. Just like we believe there to be a schedule coming out soon that will answer some of the questions. And if that does come out this week, that's something we'll be able to talk about a lot next week, both in terms of what it means for Austin, what it means for the league, what it means for the show. So like, hopefully we'll have to talk about it. And if not, we'll find a way to fill the time anyhow.
And then pretty soon we'll have some roster decisions. So we're expecting to do that on the next 2 or 3 shows as well. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week to cover more Austin FC news and potentially a schedule release. Maybe not, maybe something else. But until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
No one is around.
Think for nothing, you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Because they love to chew boom boom sauce.
Yeah.